Next news. Breaking news.
Some breaking news out of the Supreme Court. They just delivered a crushing blow to the open borders agenda. You never believe who wrote the opinion. Yeah, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, one of the most liberal justices on the bench, just handed President Trump a massive 9-0 victory on immigration enforcement. That's right, every single justice, from conservative originalists to progressive activists, unanimously agreed that immigration judges must be respected when they deny asylum claims. The left's favorite strategy of appealing rejected asylum cases up through activist courts just got demolished. When even Ketanji Brown Jackson is ruling in Trump's favor, you know the law is crystal clear. Now here, I'm going to tell you why this matters. You see, for years, illegal aliens, they've been gaming the system. They cross illegally, claim asylum with weak or fabricated stories, and when immigration judges rightfully deny those claims, activist lawyers appeal to federal courts that are packed with Obama and Biden judges who overturn everything. The result? Millions of inadmissible aliens released back into your communities, straining your hospitals, your schools, and your tax dollars. This ruling now changes everything. Now, federal appeals courts must defer to the immigration judges who actually hear the evidence and evaluate credibility. No more second guessing from coastal circuit courts trying to legislate from the bench. This means faster deportations, fewer bogus appeals, and a system that actually enforces the law. For every American community dealing with the consequences of open borders, this is the beginning of real accountability. President Trump's immigration enforcement just got the legal backing it needs, and the establishment is, of course, panicking because their favorite loophole just closed. And speaking of national security victories, there's a developing story out of Washington's legacy media. See, as Iran destabilizes the Middle East, the federal government just made a move that could reshape America's entire security posture. And here's the truth. Our nuclear subs, our warheads, our next-gen power grids, our aircraft carriers, all of it depends on uranium. We import almost every single pound of it. And this is not about energy independence. This is about survival, because a nation that cannot power its own military doesn't stay a superpower for long. That's why investors are watching domestic uranium producers very closely, specifically Atomic Minerals, trading as ATMMF in the United States and ATOM in Canada. It's positioning itself at the forefront of American uranium production. While Washington finally wakes up to this critical vulnerability, companies like Atomic Minerals could be key to securing our future. Now, do your own research. There is a briefing that has been prepared exclusively for you down below. You can link to it, you can read it and review it and see why this moment matters. Now, let's get back to the historic Supreme Court decision, because there's an angle that no one's talking about. Yes, this is what makes the ruling even more devastating for the left. The case involved a Salvadorian illegal alien who claimed persecution, but immigration judges found that when he moved to different parts of El Salvador, he faced no violence at all. It was only in his hometown. You see, that's not persecution. That is called a local dispute, and the Supreme Court agreed unanimously. The open borders activists, of course, melting down because their strategy of endless appeals just hit a brick wall. And I'm going to show you exactly how conservatives are celebrating the victory. AF Post, Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote the Supreme Court's unanimous ruling on Wednesday, directing federal appeals courts to defer to immigration judges when reviewing asylum decisions, raising the bar for overturning those rulings and making it harder for illegal immigrants to game the system. Yeah, an unlikely ally here in Ketanji Brown Jackson. Now, the unanimous decision gets more explosive when you see exactly what standard the court upheld. We'll break down the specific case that has the Democrats fuming. The SCOTUS decision on standard for torture, asylum, and immigration. We have Mike Davis on the phone with Steve Bannon in the war room. Let's check in.
Yeah, it's a 9-0 decision, and it was by Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. So this is like a unicorn decision, and it's an important one. It's a Supreme Court decision that talks about how our immigration system handles claims of persecution, claims of torture by these illegal aliens who are coming to America. There was a Salvadorian citizen who fled to the United States with his wife and his minor child back in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. He had in his hometown back in El Salvador. He had got beaten up a few times. His brother got shot. But when this family moved to different parts of El Salvador, it was fine. It was mostly peaceful, as we say, with BLM. But he didn't face violence if he moved to other parts of El Salvador. It was only when he moved back to his hometown that he faced this hometown rivalry or whatever it was against his family. And so then, of course, like all these illegal immigrants do, they come to the United States illegally. So he came here. He gets caught. And he claims asylum. He claims that if he gets sent back home, that he's going to be tortured. And you have federal immigration judges. Immigration judges work for the Justice Department. They're appointed by the Attorney General. They are executive branch officials, and that is intentionally set up by Congress because immigration, the laws are written by Congress, but the enforcement is an executive branch function. And so this immigration judge said that this guy, his wife, and his kid didn't meet the standard for torture. Adios, Pablo, you're going back home, or whatever the hell his name is. And that decision was upheld on appeal through the Justice Department, through the Board of Immigration Appeals. And then from there, it goes to a federal court of appeals. It goes, in this case, the First Circuit. And the First Circuit, which is dominated by liberals, correctly held that this guy didn't meet the standard, and there is strong deference. There is substantial deference, very strong deference to the executive branch when they make these determinations related to immigration, related to torture, and asylum cases. And so the Supreme Court 9-0 upheld that. And this is important in this respect, Steve. It reaffirms that these decisions are not for these activist Democrats judges to make. You can't run to a federal district court judge in Boston or New York or LA or one of these other liberal hellholes and have one of these district court judges up in the process to free their illegals, right? It has to be through the process. And this was a 9-0 decision.
This is huge.
This is huge indeed. Continuing with our coverage of this historic Supreme Court victory for President Trump. Here's where it gets interesting. It wasn't just any Supreme Court decision. This was the direct endorsement of Trump's immigration agenda while he wasn't even in office. On Wednesday, the U.S. Supreme Court sided with Trump and said appeals to asylum decisions should defer to rulings made by the immigration court. Unanimous. The timing could not be more perfect because this unanimous victory handed Trump the legal ammunition that he needs for his second-term crackdown. One America News also tracking the story, the Supreme Court delivering Trump a rare unanimous win, ruling the federal courts must defer to immigration judges when reviewing asylum decisions, setting a higher bar for asylum approval and strengthening the president's immigration enforcement efforts. Listen.
The Supreme Court delivered President Trump a rare unanimous win in a case regarding the manner in which federal courts review asylum decisions made by immigration judges.
It is a big win because it shows that there's a high bar to getting asylum, and it shows that the power is in the immigration judges. You can't have Court of Appeals judges or Supreme Court judges second-guessing.
Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson penned the unanimous ruling reaffirming that federal appeals courts cannot easily overturn asylum decisions made by immigration judges.
And that's amazing that the liberal Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson wrote the opinion, meaning that it was so much in favor of the Trump administration that even she had to agree to a rule in favor of the Trump administration.
According to the Immigration and Nationality Act, illegal aliens may seek asylum by claiming they face persecution in their home country. Immigration judges then vet those claims, deciding whether to grant asylum or issue deportation papers. Paul Kamenar explains the specific situation that prompted the case.
So that's what this family did. They're from El Salvador. They came in and said, we have a fear of persecution because back in our home country, we were targeted by some gang, they shot my brother-in-law, etc. And the immigration judge said, well, you don't have a well-founded fear of persecution in your whole country. You could have moved to another part of the country. And the immigration judge, which is appointed by the Justice Department, ruled against them and went to an appeals judge, which is also in the Justice Department. And finally, it went to a court of appeals, and they upheld that decision. And then it went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, you have to defer to the immigration judges because they see the evidence. Unless there's substantial evidence to the contrary, that no reasonable adjudicator would say that, oh, you do have a fear of persecution, et cetera, that you do get asylum, that you have to defer. So it's a very high standard that the asylee has to meet before they can be granted asylum. And in this case, they didn't meet it.
Migrants can appeal the decision to an agency within the executive branch called the Board of Immigration Appeals, and then to the Federal Appeals Court after that. But the unanimous ruling barred the Federal Appeals Court from redeciding the issue themselves unless the evidence is overwhelming.
This is a big ruling because you have these other liberal courts granting these asylum applications, but now it's going to really turn around this whole process.
Would you say this is a major obstacle removed from the president's mass deportation campaign?
Well, yes, because a lot of them were saying, wait a minute, I've still got my asylum application pending. And they had their court dates down the road, et cetera.
This isn't the only immigration case on docket, as the Supreme Court is set to hear oral arguments on a case challenging President Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship on April 1st. Another case that could significantly impact immigration law in this country. Daniel Baldwin, One American News, the White House.
Wow. Birthright citizenship. We'll be tracking that one as well. So this is what draining the swamp looks like, my friends. For decades, the immigration system was rigged. Illegal aliens could make any claim, no matter how weak, and activist judges and federal appeals courts would override the professionals who actually reviewed the evidence. President Trump's been fighting the rigged system since day one, and now the highest court in the land has confirmed what we've always known. Immigration judges deserve respect, and the law must be enforced. The fact that Ketanji Brown Jackson, a Biden appointee, wrote this opinion proves the case was so clear that even the left couldn't twist it. The deep state's immigration loopholes are closing one by one, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. So, America, this is exactly why elections matter. President Trump promised to secure the border, fix our broken immigration system, and he's delivering a unanimous Supreme Court ruling backing immigration enforcement. It's a victory for every law-abiding citizen who believes in national sovereignty. Now, I need you to share this video with everybody that you know, because the mainstream media, of course, will bury this story. They don't want you to know that Trump is winning. And drop a comment below and tell me, do you think that this ruling will finally put an end to asylum fraud? Yes or no? And don't forget to check out the Next News merch shelf below this video to show your support for independent conservative journalism. And make sure you are subscribed, you hit the notification bell so you never miss a single America First story. I'm Gary Franchi. Stay informed and stay free.
The system controls information. Information control is power.
They don't want you to see this.
The truth only survives together. They don't want this. Share this now.